Okay guys, so Tuesday's homework was this page 148, and it's really 4 questions. The only difficult one's probably number 12, and since that's the most difficult one, let's actually try it right here together. Number 12. The first thing to do is to identify your constant, which is 12, and your leading coefficient, which is 2. Find the factors of the constant and find the factors of the leading coefficient. So let's zoom in a bit here. Let's zoom in a bit here, and let's do the factors of the constant. And the factors of the constant are plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, 4, 6, 12. How do I get that? You got to think, what times what gives you 12? Well, 1 times 12 gives you 12, or 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. Notice 5's not on there, 7's not on there, 8's not on there, because 8 times something doesn't give you 12, or 5 times something doesn't give you 12. So in addition to that, you need the factors of the leading coefficient, and I put a LC for the leading coefficient. And the factors are simply 1 and 2, because if you think about how to get 2, the only way you could get 2 is 1 times 2 or 2 times 1, and of course positive and negative. So what could we do here? You want the list of possible answers. So you're always just going to rewrite this list that you see right here. We're going to rewrite that list as the first part of our list of rational answers. Why is that? Because you have to take each and every one of these and put them over each one of these. So if you go 1 over 1, you get 1. 2 over 1, you get 2. 3 over 1, 4 over 1, 6 over 1, 12 over 1. You're going to get the same exact red list. But in addition to that, you need to start doing each of these numbers over the second one. So 1 over 2, that gives you 1/2. That's not on this list already. So you're going to get an extra one, 1/2, and of course it's plus or minus. And then if you keep going and make fractions of all of them, 2 over 2, that's 1, and that's already on there. 3 over 2, that's not on there, right? So 3 over 2 is another fraction that you need to write, plus or minus 3 over 2. And if you keep going, you'll notice that there is no others, because if you go 4 over 2, that gives you 2, that's already on there. 6 over 2, that gives you 3, and 12 over 2 gives you 6. So this is the list of possible answers, the list of possible zeros. So now we get to the fun stuff. You have to rewrite, you have to rewrite the h of x function in factored form. So that becomes very tough. What do we need to do? We need to start guessing. All right, I'm just going to go in order. I'm going to start with the number 1. I'm going to plug it in with synthetic substitution and see if I get 0 as an output, which would make it an answer. So luckily, I already have it ready right here on the side. So once again, I'm going to plug in 1, and let's see what happens. The 2 comes down. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative 5 and 2 is negative 3. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. That's going to give me a negative 14. 1 times negative 14 is negative 14. 20, take away 14, 6. And that's not going to work because 12 plus 6 is 18, and that's not 0. So that did not work. So 1 does not work. So we need to try the next number. We just tried positive 1. How about we try negative 1? And I have another set up right there. I could push this one up here, move this one. So we're going to try negative 1 now. See if that works. Hopefully it does. When you bring down the 2, negative 1 times 2, that's going to give us a negative 2. And negative 5 and negative 2 is negative 7. And then negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7. Negative 11 and 7, that's negative 4. Negative 1 and negative 4 is positive 4. That's going to be 24. Negative 1, that's not going to work either because it's not going to give us 0 as an output. It gives us negative 12. Man, strike 2. Okay, so we already tried, we already tried 1, right? That's right here. We tried 1, didn't work. We tried negative 1, didn't work. So we need to keep trying. I'll move this to the side, guys. We need to keep trying, and I'm going to try the next number that's in line, which is 2. So let's try 2, and the 2 comes down. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 5 and 4 is negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. combine negative 11 and negative 2, you get negative 13. 2 times negative 13 is negative 26. And 20 and negative 26 is negative 6. And 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And I am happy because we get 0 as an output. That means that 2 really is an answer. X equals 2. Yay, that is an answer right there. As a matter of fact, we could already write down that as one of the actual zeros down here because that's an actual answer. Let's actually do that. So I'm just going to go over here to where it says actual zeros, and I want to write down the first answer, x equals 2. Okay, let's keep going. So we're going to go back to our work over here. Now, here's the problem. What I'm supposed to do is rewrite it in factored form and then continue factoring. So if the answer is x equals 2, that means in factored form it's going to look like an x minus 2. Now, the rest of these numbers down here, I'm supposed to make a polynomial. Here it is. And I'm supposed to try and factor it. But the problem is I can't factor it. Even if I tried by grouping, separate that group and that group, it still doesn't work. So I'm stuck, and I need to just keep going. Now, what do I mean by keep going? I need to plug in more of these guys, plug in more answers, because I do have a list of answers over here that I've only used positive and negative 1, they didn't work. Positive 2 did work. So my next bet would be to try negative 2 and see if that works. And that's what I want to do, try negative 2. But I'm no longer going to use the original coefficients. I want to use these leftover coefficients. Okay. So what I want to do is put the negative 2 in the box, and then I want to use the coefficients of 2, negative 1, negative 13, and negative 6. And there's my line. Give me a second. I'm just going to move this up, make a little more space. So we already know that 2 works. Let's try negative 2. So as 2 comes down, and then I multiply, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Then negative 4 and 1 is negative 5. And then the negative 2 times negative 5, that's going to give me a positive 10. And negative 13 and positive 10 is negative 3. And last but not least, negative 2 times negative 3, it does give me a positive 6. So I'm super excited if you can't tell. Why? Because the output is 0. It does work. That means that x also equals negative 2, ladies and gentlemen. So we found that by plugging in 2 up here, it gave us output 0. That means that 2 is an answer. That's one answer. It's an actual answer. It's an actual 0. And we plugged in negative 2 into the remaining coefficients right here. These coefficients, we did the problem over again. We plugged in negative 2 and it worked also, so that means negative 2 is also an answer. Okay? And we could even go over here and put negative 2, but I'm going to hold off on that right now. I'll do that in a little bit. Right now what I want to do is rewrite it in factored form. So let me move this stuff up a little. And I want to rewrite it in factored form. Okay, so we know x equals 1, or x equals 2 is an answer, and x equals negative 2 is an answer. So in factored form, for the above x equals 2, we already know it's x minus 2. So let me put x minus 2 in parentheses. And now this guy, x equals negative 2, I need to put that in parentheses. It's going to be a x plus 2 in factored form. Okay? And what's left? We have the 2, the negative 5, and the negative 3. So hopefully, when I rewrite it as a quadratic trinomial, the 2x to the second minus 5x minus 3, hopefully that's factorable. That's an ugly x, I apologize. Now the problem is, I can't think of the factors. What times what? I mean, the problem is there's a 2 right here. So I can't just factor it in my head. I could guess and check, but I'd rather go with the quadratic formula, knowing that a is my value of 2, b is my value of negative 5, and c is my value of negative 3. So when you want to use a quadratic formula, let me move this up. When I want to use my quadratic formula, I want to rewrite the quadratic formula, but with parentheses. And that is negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2 times a. So let me just plug in my a, b, and c values from above. And there it is plugged in. And if I do the 5 squared, I get 25. And if I go 4 times 2 times 3, that'll be 8 times 3, that's 24. So I have 25 plus 24. And of course, I did the minus negative that changed to a positive, and 2 times 2 is 4. So let's keep working. We're going to end up with a square root of 49 inside the root. And let me move this up a little so we could keep working over here. So we're going to have 5 plus or minus the square root of 49. We're going to have a 4 on the bottom. So it's really going to be 5 plus or minus 7 over 4. And that becomes two separate situations. Let me move this a little out of the way. We're going to have 12, because 5 plus 7 is 12 over 4. And we're also going to have 5 minus 7, that's negative 2 over 4. So we have two answers. This answer on the, this answer on the left, 12 divided by 4, that's going to give you x equals 3. And the answer on the right is going to be x equals negative. If you reduce 2 over 4, it becomes negative half. So you have those two answers right there. So just to review what we've done here, we had the answer 2, we had the answer negative 2, and then we were able to factor it to the point where we have the quadratic trinomial, and then we use a quadratic formula to find the other two answers. So we have the answer 2, the answer negative 2, and we also have the answers 3 and negative half. So let me write that right here on the actual zeros. We said the answer was x equals 2, x equals negative 2, and we also had x equals 3, and x equals, I believe that was positive half, or was it negative half? It was negative half, I think. Let's check. Yep, that was negative half. Okay, so now that I know my answers, now I could rewrite everything in factored form. Because remember, if your answer is x equals 2, the factored form of it must be x minus 2 in parentheses. And then times, if this answer is x equals negative 2, that must mean that it came from x plus 2 in parentheses. That's what it would be in factored form. And if we keep going, the x equals 3 came from x minus 3 inside parentheses, and the x equals negative half, that came from x plus 1/2. And this is all your h of x function. So you would put h of x equals right in front. So we are almost done with this crazy problem here. All that's needed to be done is graphing it. So if you know your answers, it's pretty easy to do. You know it's going to cross at positive 2, negative 2, and 3, and negative half. So we said positive 2, negative 2, 3, and I believe, what was that, negative half? Yeah, x equals negative half. Okay, so negative halfway. Well, sorry. That's not even at the negative 1, that's only halfway. Nevertheless, it is an x-intercept, it is an answer, it is a root, it's a solution. So let's go back to the problem here. What's the degree of this problem? The degree is 4. The highest exponent is 4. Okay, so we go back over here, and we know that the a value is positive. If you look at the a value, it's positive 2, so it is going to behave like a parabola. It opens up. So you're going to have an arrow up here, and you're also going to have an arrow up here. Okay? So let's go through and talk about how the line is going to cross. Okay? So from left to right, from here to here, we know that this is an answer, but the question is, does it just touch and then go back up? Or does it go through like a line? Or does it go through like a little squiggly line, right? Because that might happen also if it's the multiplicity of 3. So multiplicity of 1 is a straight line. Multiplicity of 2 is a little mini parabola. And multiplicity of 3 is like a little mini cubic function, like a little snake-like curve. And all of these answers, if you look at the answers that we wrote right here, none of the answers repeated. We have the x equals 2, the x equals negative 2, the x equals 3, and the x equals negative half. So all of these don't have multiplicity. So in other words, it's going to cross through all of them like a line. Like that, like that, like that, and like that. And that's it. We're done.